At this juncture, I'm going to talk about the nervous tissue. This is Maureen Balogan, your reporter for today.
If a person unknowingly touches a hot object like a kettle, she immediately pulls back her hand. Why does she do this? This happens as the receptor present in the fingers senses the heat from the kettle. The sensory nerves in the fingers absorbs this impulse and transmit it to the spinal cord. From the spinal cord, this impulse passes to the motor neuron, which in turn passes to the affected muscle in the finger, and the person immediately remove her hand from the kettle. The whole process involves the coordination among the nerve cells and the nervous tissue.
Before proceeding to the discussion, let us now first define the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is the term for groups of organized cells in the nervous system. It is an organ system that controls the body's movement, sends and carries signals to and from the different parts of the body. It has a role in controlling bodily functions such as digestion. The nervous tissue is grouped into two main categories, the neurons and neuroglia. Neurons or nerves transmit electrical impulses while neuroglia do not. Neuroglia have many other functions, including supporting and protecting neurons. With the definitions being cleared, let's now proceed to the function of nervous tissue. Nervous tissue makes up the nervous system. The nervous system is subdivided in several overlapping ways. The central nervous system, or CNS, is composed of the brain and spinal cord, which coordinates information from all areas of the body and send nerve impulses that control all bodily movements. The peripheral nervous system, or PNS, consists of peripheral nerves that branch all throughout the body. It connects the CNS to the rest of the body and is directly responsible for controlling movements of specific parts of the body. For example, just before arm movements, the CNS sends nerve impulses to the PNS nerves in the arm, which causes the arm to move. Another subdivision of the nervous system is into the sympathetic nervous system, or SNS, and the parasympathetic nervous system, or PSNS. The CNS activates in order to stimulate a fight or flight response in an organism when that organism encounters a threat and must decide whether to fight or flee from it. The nerves of the SNS have diverse effects on different parts of the body. Activation of the SNS causes the pupils of the eyes to dilate, inhibits digestion, increases sweat secretion, and increases the heart rate. Conversely, the PSNS is activated during the moments of rest and digest, when an organism is not facing an immediate threat. Nerves of the PSNS works to stimulate activities that can occur at rest such as digestion, waste excretion, and sexual arousal, and they also decrease the heart rate. The enteric nervous system, or ENS, controls the gastrointestinal tract, or the digestive tract. This division of nervous system along with the SNS and PSNS are collectively referred to as the autonomic nervous system, or ANS. The ANS regulates activities that are performed unconsciously. For example, we don't have to think about digesting food for it to occur. By contrast, the somatic nervous system, or SONS, controls voluntary body movement. It is made up of afferent and efferent nerves that send signals to and from the CNS, causing voluntary muscle contraction to occur.
With the function of nervous tissue being said, let us now move to the types of nervous tissues. Number 1. Neurons. Neurons are cells that can transmit signals called nerve impulses or action potentials. An action potential is a quick rise and fall in the electrical membrane potential of the neuron, which transmits signals from one neuron to the next. While neurons can be specialized and look very different from one another, they each have components in common. Each neuron has a soma, or cell body, that contains the nucleus. Dendrites, finger-like projections that receive nerve impulses, branch off from the soma. The axon is larger projection that branches off from the soma. Nerve impulses travel along the axon in the form of an action potential. The axon splits into axon terminals, which branch off to the other neurons. Neurotransmitters are released from the ends of the axon terminals, and these travel across the synaptic cleft to reach the receptor on the dendrites of the other neurons. In this way, neurons communicate with each other and can send signals that reach many other neurons. The following are the different types of neurons. Sensory or afferent neurons. It relays information from the PNS to the CNS. A different type of sensory neurons can detect temperature, pressure, and light. Motor or efferent neurons. It can send signal from the CNS to the PNS. These signals provide information to sensory neurons to tell them what to do. For example, initiate muscle movement. Lastly, interneurons. Interneurons connect sensory and motor neurons to the brain and spinal cord. They act as connectors to form neural circuits and are involved with reflex actions and higher brain function like decision making. The other type of the nervous tissue is the neuroglia. Neuroglia or glial cells are cells that support neurons, supply them with nutrients, and get rid of dead cells and pathogens such as bacteria. They also form insulation between neurons so that electrical signals do not get crossed, and can also aid the formation of synaptic connection between neurons. There are several types of neuroglia. The following are the several types of neuroglia. Number 1. Astroglial cell. Astroglial cells are also called astrocytes. They are star-shaped cells found in the brain and spinal cord. They provide nutrients to neurons, maintain ion balance, and remove unneeded excess neurotransmitters from the synaptic cleft. Number 2. Epidermal cells. Epidermal cells are also found in the central nervous system. There are two types of epidermal cells. The non-ciliated epidermal cells form cerebrospinal fluid, while ciliated epidermal cells help the cerebrospinal fluid circulate. Cerebrospinal fluid cushions the brain and spinal cord. The third neuroglial cells are oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocytes are found in the central nervous system and provide physical supports to neurons. They form a myelin sheath around some neurons in the central nervous system. The myelin sheath is a fatty substance wrapped around the axons of some neurons, as it provides an electrical insulation. The fourth one is the Schwann cells. Schwann cells also form myelin sheaths around some neurons, but they are only found in the peripheral nervous system. Neurons that are myelinated can conduct electrical impulses faster than non-myelinated ones. The last one is microglial cells. Microglial cells or microglia are small macrophage cells in the central nervous system that protect against disease by engulfing pathogens through phagocytosis, or also known as cell eating. They can also destroy infected neurons and promote the regrowth of neurons. All of the other types of neuroglia above are larger and collectively called macroglia. That ends my presentation. Once again, this is Maureen Balagan, your reporter for today. Thank you for listening.